The movie begins showing some guys dressed in protective clothing. They leave a strange box and tell Dr. Goldstein. Dr. Julia Goldstein smiles and says, "We found them," while looking at some live images of a strange hole in the bottom of the sea that looks like a portal. A scientist from Miskatonic University enters his room and sees Dr. Goldstein waiting. Jim wasn't really paying attention when he heard that Julia worked for the Pickman Company, but when he learned that the Pickman Company was selecting people for an expedition, he started to pay attention. Dr. Goldstein explained that for the last 7 years they had been researching in the southern seas. They had mapped a deep part near Antarctica and found the deepest place in the sea at 37,000 feet. Then she showed Jim some photos of a hole that looked like a portal at the bottom of the sea. She said that the trip was to enter this hole and study what was inside. Jim agreed to go because he was curious about what could be inside the hole that seemed made by someone. Jim went to a meeting where he met the new team. Dr. Goldstein introduced everyone. Gordon Atkins, who manages the Manned Submarine Laboratory in London. Christine Harris, a marine scientist from Europe. Joe Meeker, the security and communications guy. And Hank O'Connell, the chief engineer of Providence 3, a submarine that dives deep. The Providence 3 is made with a special foam and can withstand the enormous pressure at 37,000 feet and deeper. Christine was worried about the risks of entering the hole, but Dr. Goldstein and Hank said that the Providence 3 could handle it and that the trip would be fine. Suddenly, Jed Peakman appeared behind the group. He talked a lot about why it was important to explore the hole, saying that it could be their greatest discovery. After the meeting, the team ate together and got to know each other better. They talked about the mission. Christine talked about how the water pressure was hard to imagine. Gordon kept saying it was very dangerous. Christine asked why they hadn't given up despite the danger. Everyone agreed that it was a once-in-a-lifetime chance. When Christine left, Jim went after her to see how she was doing. Christine told him that she knew who Jim was because of his father, who went on a trip for the Pickman Company and disappeared after finding something important. Then she told Jim about her son, Sam, showed a photo, and said she was afraid of not returning from the trip to see her son grow up. 2 months later, the team had finished training and was ready for the trip. Hey, what would you do if you were invited to explore a hole at the bottom of the ocean? The movie I'm going to summarize is called Gods of the Deep. It's a little-known film that mixes horror, science fiction, and suspense. I recommend staying until the end, because the ending made me want to break my TV in half out of anger. Jokes aside, before getting into the summary, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell, and leave a like to receive the best recaps. Peakman decided to go along to see what was under the hole that looked like a portal. Dr. Goldstein checked everyone as they worked, confirming that everything was okay. Jim and Christine went down to look, while Gordon said he was opening the ventilation. Their submarine shook a little, but then it was fine. Jim prepared to dive into the sea. Hank reminded him what to do and said he would be alone out there, asking him to remember his training. When they arrived at the portal, Christine called Jim excitedly to look. The trip to 37,000 feet below was successful. The team gathered, impressed with the hole. It seemed man-made, but they weren't sure because it was so deep. Gordon carefully guided the Providence 3 into the hole when a tremor suddenly shut down the submarine. They lost contact with Dr. Goldstein's team up above. Christine was worried as the submarine continued to sink. Suddenly, it started working again, as if nothing had happened. Rachel told them they had lost contact with the surface for 3 hours. The team was shocked because it seemed like only a few minutes had passed. Hank looked at the life support and confirmed that it had decreased by about 3 hours, making everyone more suspicious. In front of them, they saw a huge ancient ruin. They described the old stone structures that appeared man-made to Rachel and her team, who couldn't see because of the interference. Seeing these structures left everyone confused and suspicious because it seemed like there had been life down there, which seemed impossible because it was so deep. They saw something huge and strange at the bottom of the sea. Looking closer, they were shocked to see what appeared to be a creature. Christine said it looked like the remains of a creature buried under centuries of sand and mud. Dr. Goldstein ordered Jim to get close and take samples of the creature using the robot. Jim prepared to go out to sea. Christine asked if he would be okay, and he reassured her as he left. The others continued looking from inside the Providence 3. Jim got close to the creature and took a sample while the others watched. Seeing the creature up close, Jim became afraid because it was very large. Christine found it very strange. For a creature that is dead and the skin is intact, it should have already decomposed. Joe wondered how long it had been dead. Suddenly, they saw movement on the robot's rear cameras. Their radar detected a huge creature. Christine told Gordon to call Jim back to the Providence 3, but Joe insisted they needed the sample from the creature. As soon as Jim finished cutting, Gordon told him to return to the submarine, but then they lost the signal. Everyone was afraid when they saw the huge winged creature rise and make a strange noise. Gordon asked to abort, but Dr. Goldstein, desperate for the sample, wouldn't allow it. In a panic, Gordon passed the controls to Joe, who decided to lower the submarine so Jim could return quickly. Meanwhile, Peakman saw a shadow of a non-human creature and said it was an encounter with the gods, exactly what he expected. Christine ran to the pressure chamber and told Hank to fill it with water for Jim to return. When the huge creature came near the submarine, Gordon had to back away suddenly, causing a tremor that threw Christine into the pressure chamber. Before Gordon could open the outer doors to let Jim's robot in, Hank told him to stop because this would throw Christine into the sea. He opened the inner doors, and Joe helped pull Christine out of the water-filled pressure chamber. After the chamber was closed, Jim entered the Providence 3. Joe tried to save Christine, but when she didn't respond, they thought she had died. Gordon asked what was happening, and Hank said they had lost her. Hank found Peakman on the floor and tried to wake him up. Meanwhile, Gordon struggled to avoid the huge creature, causing damage to the submarine and letting water in. Hank looked at the rooms, found them flooded, and told Gordon to release weight before the water dragged them down. As Jim was still in the pressure chamber, he waited 5 seconds before releasing the weights. Hank had closed the corridor but couldn't close the second door, so he couldn't prevent water from entering or escape himself. He begged Peakman to open the door, but Peakman, saying nonsensical things, just watched as Hank drowned. Jim returned to the Providence 3 and was desperate when he saw Christine looking dead. He yelled at Joe, asking why he didn't help her. He gave Christine mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, ignoring Joe saying she was dead. After a while, Christine coughed up water and Jim hugged her. The submarine successfully left the ancient ruin and returned to the surface. As they talked, the pressure chamber began to move. It was the box with the sample from the creature. Peakman wanted the sample to be taken to the laboratory. Jim suggested sealing the creature sample in the pressure chamber, afraid it might be dangerous, but Peakman insisted on taking it to the laboratory. Christine and Jim decided to go along to keep an eye on it to ensure the sample remained sealed. As they watched, a disgusting tentacle came out of the sample. Jim suggested freezing it, and Christine demanded that the laboratory be closed. Jim took Peakman out of the laboratory, and Christine covered the glass box with the sample before closing the laboratory. Joe called Dr. Goldstein, who warned that the sample should reach the surface. Dr. Goldstein planned to take the sample for herself, and Joe was part of the plan because this sample was worth billions of dollars. Peakman overheard this conversation. After hearing this, Peakman entered the laboratory. The laboratory was totally different. It seemed like the creature had merged with the environment, and there was a sinister shadow next to Peakman. He took off his clothes and began rubbing his body with the slime from the sample. Meanwhile, Jim and Christine were changing when Jim suddenly went crazy, saying that whatever they had found in the ancient ruin was making him see things. Christine held his face, calming him until he calmed down. While they finished dressing, they heard Gordon scream. Running to see, they saw the mess of the open laboratory. Christine accidentally touched some of the slime while trying to close the laboratory and ran back to Jim. Then Peakman appeared, making strange poses and letting out a weird scream before falling into the pressure chamber. Christine and Jim tried to open the pressure chamber to save him, but Joe stopped them with a gun. He revealed that Peakman already knew what they were dealing with. Peakman had spent years researching the ancient ruin before the trip. Their real goal wasn't to explore, but to get a sample of a living creature and make money from it. Christine tried to talk to Joe, explaining that the creature wasn't just physically present, but also had a strange effect on people's minds. She told him about her son and warned that if she didn't return to the surface, he would die with her. Joe wouldn't listen. Jim told Christine to let Joe go, afraid that irritating him could make the situation more dangerous. Joe went back to the sample and cut a piece off, putting it in a plastic bag and storing it in his chest. Meanwhile, Christine and Jim went to look for Gordon. When they got close, they heard Gordon vomiting. When they reached him, they realized he had been affected by the sample. He began to say nonsensical things, looking at them in a strange way. Then, with a voice that sounded exactly like Jim's father's, he called Jim son. It became clear that Jim's father had tried to warn Pickman about the hole, but no one listened, leading to his disappearance. Gordon attacked Jim, who struggled to defend himself before passing out. Gordon then destroyed everything around him, causing the submarine to malfunction and lose contact with Dr. Julia Goldstein. Christine watched in horror. Joe saw what Gordon did and went to talk to him. Seeing how crazy Gordon was, Joe shot and killed him. Christine tried to stop Joe, but he said everything was falling apart and that now it was all about survival. Joe planned to take the robot and leave Christine and Jim behind. When Joe turned his back, Christine grabbed an axe and hit Joe's hand, making him drop the gun, which fell next to Jim. Christine fought against Joe, and in the end stuck the axe in his leg before running to Jim, who had just woken up. Christine opened the pressure chamber and entered the robot, hoping Jim would follow her so they could leave. But Jim picked up the gun and went to the laboratory to destroy the creature sample, ensuring that no one else would find it. Meanwhile, Joe woke up and saw a tentacle coming out of Gordon's body. After Jim left the sample laboratory and was returning to the pressure chamber, Jim encountered a shadow that had possessed Pickman. He ran back to the pressure chamber and told Christine to go without him, explaining that one of them needed to stay behind and close the pressure chamber. Suddenly, Joe appeared with the axe. Jim lured Joe away from the pressure chamber and shot him. To his horror, tentacles came out of Joe's body and Jim shot at them before running back to the pressure chamber. He closed the pressure chamber and opened the outer doors to let Christine out, then slid down the wall, accepting his fate as everything caught fire around him. Jim heard his father's voice calling, "Come find me, son." He approached the shadow, calling for his father as the fire consumed everything. 2 days later, Christine woke up in a hospital after escaping from the Providence 3. She called for Jim. Dr. Goldstein explained that they had picked up the robot signal after losing contact with the submarine and found Christine adrift, bringing her to the hospital. Furious, Christine yelled at Dr. Goldstein for sending her people to their deaths. Suddenly, she felt a horrible pain in her stomach and remembered accidentally touching the disgusting slime from the creature samples. She ironically congratulated Dr. Goldstein for getting exactly what she wanted before falling back on the bed, moving a lot and laughing like crazy. Dr. Goldstein and the nurses watched in horror as tentacles exploded from Christine's stomach. The film ends with Christine laughing and screaming while Dr. Goldstein looks terrified. And so the movie ends. In this film, nobody survives. Tell me, what rating would you give this movie? Write in the comments below, and don't forget to turn on the bell to be notified of new recaps. So see you next time.